Roadhog, and then another time where they dropped the Diva and brought in a Tracer. So not that full committal yet. However, this time as we look to start things off, Grizzlies is actually going to fully commit to it.
We'll see whether or not this will pay off, because on the other end, it's once again for Karasuno that Hanzo accompanied by that Pharah. However, having that Mercy alongside Hidan Zenyatta should make things a little bit difficult for those tanky members of Grizzlies. And we'll see both teams meet halfway towards that point. Spirit gonna be dropping low. However, it's a 1-for-1 that's graceful, even gets the boop on a big target without the Reinhardt. It's gonna make things difficult, but two key members now being taken care of, and Karasuno might finally get a teamfight win out of it.
Karasuno just taking their time, allowing the DPS to find these kills. Far and Busio have popped off, especially the former on the Pharah. Just being able to work that outside, they surrounded them just like we like to see against this particular composition, and it worked out well for them. Yes, they gave up 50%, but now they have control.
And when you have those multi-angled threats, you're going to be looking for those targets such as the Moira when she doesn't have the fade up, the Lucio, especially after he uses that E4, the speed boost or anything of the sort. But now, as we'll have the Rocket Barrage at the ready for Far, he's going to look for that boop. It's not going to be quite there, but the Dragon Strike will open things. So already getting a crucial kill onto Ding, and once more Karasuno in control.
They are doing such a phenomenal job dealing with this. You can see how, you know, teams have slowly started to figure this thing out, but so far, it seems like Grizzlies, you know, it kind of shows that they aren't one of those teams that typically pulls this type of composition out, because it's not as aggressive as we're used to seeing this being executed. They're not in your face. They go to the point, they try to contest it, but they don't take the fight to the enemy. They try to pull the enemy to them, and that's just not exactly how this, you know, typically is played.
And I like this positioning coming out of DPS. Oh, never mind. He will be dropping down. It said I thought he might be going for some sneaky Reinhardt plays, as we'll have that Earth Shatter soon enough. But with that previous team fight, only committing the Dragon Strike is going to be very important for Karasuno. And now that we do have double sniper rolling for Grizzlies, we'll look to have better success overall, looking to contest, boost you up on that high ground, now forcing him away. But having 78%, Ding is going to find another kill, and finally Grizzlies might make things happen.
But they still have to deal with Far, and they finally do. Spirit with the arrow to the... Still held onto now by Karasuno.
And the Earth Shatter is at the ready, but the Dragon Strike was charged up by Spirit rather, but gets denied. Guru was there with the Matrix, and that might be enough for the rest of his team to still get onto this point and make sure they keep a hold of it. And now the Earth Shatter finds Sting, secures another one, and where things were finally looking better for Grizzlies, we have Karasuno coming out on top.
What a flashy way to end it too. Bustio with the flick to Zapori's face. 100-15, Karasuno take it, and did most of that work against a 3-0-3 that came out initially from Grizzlies before they finally swapped it. The only points that we saw them scoring were off of that first fight where they had that, got control, and then lost afterwards. So Karasuno, I mean, they didn't lose a single fight throughout that entire round.
Definitely something very impressive coming out of this roster, but at the very least for Grizzlies, after they did make those adjustments, moving on to the double DPS setup, things were looking on the up and up, and I would expect them to run said double DPS setup, be it with a double sniper comp, or especially now that we are moving on to well, it will be that Pharah accompanied by Zapori's Tracer instead.
Well, here comes Far on the Widow, and this is a good moment, I think, because Far's Widow has been so insane. You saw him matching up with Poise yesterday. He's going to be looking for that Pharah. Oh, gets Spirit low, but Spirit does manage to get his way back around.
And we'll see him just looking to contest that Pharah into the sky. My eyes are also on Graceful, whether or not he, on that Roadhog, can have a big, or rather big success with that halt combo that we've seen in the past. But it's going to be Far with that first blood. Bustio gets another, and that DPS duo of Karasuno popping off.
And you can see how Zapori wanted to go into the back line, start putting some pressure out, but I mean, these guys are playing so well together. Karasuno looking like an entirely different force to be reckoned with. And he's working his way back in. Ooh, the pulse bomb goes out. Won't find anything. I thought it got eaten up, but it did not. It actually did come out there. It's still being held on now. Karasuno behind this barrier from DPS. I mean, they're doing fantastically.
But now, as you say that, Guru does get hooked. Zapri finds a pretty important kill onto Hidan, and things will be looking on the up and up for them, as we still see that flanking Roadhog up to the side, accompanied by that Tracer. Zapri will find another kill, and even though the Valk is down, the Frost King, after Jarez, is unable to do anything else. And eventually, after building up 36%, we'll have Grizzlies swap the point in their favor.
Oh, here comes a swap from Guru, though. We see the Brigitte, and they haven't had to, you know, do this yet. They haven't been forced to into the situation where they had to pull out the Brigitte to deal with the Tracer. Finally pulls it out. Zapri goes back. He goes over to the Widowmaker. So now perhaps they have a shot to go head-to-head with Far, and I don't know. If Far has been phenomenal, I don't know how that's going to match up between those two.
That will be an important matchup, as we will actually have Ding being forced to that Transcendence, but in the meantime, Spirit does find that Widowmaker with the use of that Rocket Barrage. However, Frog King was there with the Resurrect, was safe as he was behind the rest of his team, and now Guru on this Brigitte will look to potentially open things up with that stun setup, but now Hidan does have that Transcendence. That Supercharger was down, however, unable to do too much in terms of damage. Overall, it's still going to be Grizzlies finding the kills.
And this has been a long-winded battle so far. Spirit pulls back, gets some healing from Evokia, as Zapri has been firing off shot after shot, taking 2 kills. And that's once again going to be Karasuno backed off. But looking forward here, Guru will make yet again another swap. He's going to go over to the Roadhog, and he's going to match Graceful on this pick. 70% now for Grizzlies. This could very well be the last opportunity that Karasuno has to potentially get this flip back in their favor.
They do have the intel, having used that infrared side, should be looking to approach this fight with a better angle, but again, considering the ultimate deficit in terms of that economy, things might not be looking so good, but as I say that, it is going to be both Zapri and Spirit going down. Zapri does get brought back up, but with the 6v5 disadvantage here for Grizzlies, and we'll still see the rest of Karasuno look to keep on this charge. Pay dropping low, will be kept alive. Transcendence is there, overtime can't get through. Dragon Strike comes out, but a little too early as the Transcendence was still ticking through. And Zapri with the double.
Ever since he swapped to this, he has just been lighting it up for his team. Grizzlies might be holding on to this one, but Far walk his way across the backside, flanking around, did find the kill onto his Widow counterpart, but still, behind this barrier, Grizzlies has been so protected. They have an opportunity to get that hook, and Hidan falls into the well.
Goodbye, Hidan, and 82% towards that Transcendence could have been huge, but so far, as we'll see Karasuno rush towards this point, it's going to be Graceful with another kill onto Far this time around, and even though they still have 3 members onto the point, Karasuno are just trying their best to make anything happen. TPS manages to stay alive somehow and get that barrier back up, but as we will see the rest of Grizzlies regroup, will not quite be on the point, and now it is going to be a 1-for-1.
Grizzlies firing it back in a big way to equalize this map. And now we go into round number 3 for the first map here of Ilios between Karasuno and Grizzlies. And it's going to be Ruins, and I really love this. I love the way that we're ending this one out, because Far and Zapri, I mean, I would have expected at this point, you know, going into this this map here, that they would have been more or less equally matched, right? But it seems like Zapri really kind of set the tone in that last round, I would have to say, on Well. When he made that swap to Widow, he was able to just keep his team in the game by finding headshot after headshot after headshot. And now as we go into this map here, where we're going to be seeing double sniper versus double sniper, I'm really intrigued to see who's going to come out ahead, because that Widow v Widow matchup is so pivotal at a time like this. And Hidan going to be going down. Zapri with the first kill of this round.
Still on fire, just like you mentioned. We'll find a first blood. Will, however, be brought back up with the use of that Resurrect coming out of the Frog King. But what I'm also interested to see is that matchup of those tanks, but Zapri just doesn't even let me talk about it at all, because he's still just bragging out.
I mean, this double sniper duo from Grizzlies is going untouched right now. Look at this. Such a clean sweep. Almost a team kill. As Far did go down a little bit earlier, but still, I mean, so clean from Grizzlies. The execution that we saw there. Great picks to start out from Zapri and Spirit. And yet again, another one as Zapri is making a bold statement in this first map.
As we will see, even Boosted with a pretty late kill. Will not look too hot for Karasuno. Now, at the very least, though, they will force Grizzlies to go ahead and regroup for a more defensive stance onto the point. But Zapri keeps fighting Far, and I would have imagined having the Orisa in your composition, you might have liked to have your Widowmaker play around those barriers, but now it's just been all about these double snipers here for Grizzlies.
Holding on to this Dragon Strike. Gonna be getting some vision to his team. They see them wrapping around that side, and he's gonna be able to find some damage to start it out. It's gonna force some healing. Dragon Strike will come out to engage this. Graceful has already found a kill. I mean, DPS is already down the Orisa for Karasuno. They have to back out of this one, and that was mostly the tanks there doing most of the work.
And look at that, such a late kill onto Gurus, gonna delay things even further, and considering the fact that we already have 64% being built up for Grizzlies, Karasuno don't have many fights left in it.
And Far and Boosty are names that we talked about a lot in their last matchup, you know, going up against Envision, where it was really cool to see, actually, you know, seeing Far go up against Buds, and then, you know, having Boostio work some great angles as well. You saw him doing some cool things on Numbani. I mean, to have them get shut down in this way, or excuse me, actually, I believe it was Anubis that he did that.
We'll have right now 93% on this point here for Grizzlies. Transcendence popped on both ends. Dragon Strike might potentially finally open things up for this side of Karasuno, but as we see Ting go down, it is going to be Graceful alongside Spirit, still retaliating, still finding those picks, and the member advantage favoring the side of Grizzlies. We'll see a last-ditch effort here for Karasuno.
Oh, Guru trying to hang on. Overtime ticking down. He's about to lose his mech. They're crowding around him. And that mech is surrounded, overtime ticking. It's going to be Grizzlies taking this first map 2-1 and going up 1-0 in the series.
And while things looked so good for Karasuno on Ilios when we started the round, it was the superior composition, seemingly. We saw how, in a sense, bad Grizzlies were on playing that, when it comes to playing that 3-0-3 comp, and now that they went back to that 2-2-2 composition that we praised them for, looking pretty unstoppable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, going into a 3-0-3, it's a composition that, you know, there are some people out there probably thinking, you know, I could do that. But there are some checkboxes that you still need to figure out with your team. You need to have the coordination, communication to be able to figure it out, you know, play together and everything. And another thing is you have to be aggressive, and that's the checkbox that I think they weren't actually checking off. They were kind of sitting on the point, allowing Far and Boostio to get those angles, allow everybody to rotate out of the fight once they got low. They weren't chasing kills. They weren't putting pressure out themselves, and they were just kind of crumbling when they had it. But swap over to the 2-2-2, and all of a sudden things start clicking. You have Zapri, especially, I would say, working very well once he goes onto the Widow. Yes, he was okay on Tracer as well, but I think once he swapped to that Widow, that was a huge turning point for Grizzlies.
Most definitely. Just shutting down Far on the Widowmaker with those Widow v Widow duels was what really solidified their lead in that second round, and then eventually just completely shut down the opposition in that third one. But coming up next will be, and what's going to be your take on it?
Well, I guess I won't have a shot to tell you, but we will be able to go right into the game instead, which is even better, as we will see Boostio on the Widowmaker instead of the Hanzo, and Far back onto the Pharah. Love seeing this guy playing Pharah. You saw him in the beginning of the last map, being able to deal with that 3-0-3 that Grizzlies pulled out, but this time he will be matched with Spirit up in the sky, and playing a little bit further back now is Grizzlies looking for that opportunity to come in. Boostio already did find the kill onto Ding, but it did get res back up. Still unanswered, though, as Grizzlies looking for their first kill, finally find it in Far.
but the Resurrect will be available with only one member going down here for Karasuno. Things will still be looking great for them moving on forward, especially considering that ult differential. Look at Guru already up at 62%. Being a charged up star is definitely not something you want to face if you're Grizzlies, but Zapri will be making a swap for now. No more Widowmaker Boostio though. Fine Spirit's head.
And he takes it right to Pharah's arena too, going into the sky, going airborne and finding the kill onto the Pharah up there as well. And it will be Grizzlies finally finding that opening pick that they need, but Spirit has been yet again shut down by Boostio.
We'll have Zapri even being killed off as well. Boostio on point right now with that Widowmaker. Needs to keep it up, and that indeed he will do. However, Pei being on the hunt does manage to find him in the end, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't matter because Karasuno in a definite commanding position now with all of their ultimates available.
These two playing together have just worked so well in tandem. Grizzlies holding on to a few ults here. We do see a pause come out. I wonder if that actually was from Ding, because he was sitting in that sitting in the respawn zone, the spawn room, and just kind of sitting there. And oh, there he goes. So super unfortunate if we think about it in terms of future fights to come, because he, as I mentioned, was holding on to Transcendence. You see Karasuno coming online with everything in their arsenal. They have Infrasight up right now, and every other ultimate is available. So not having your Transcendence to be an answer to a couple of those and start swinging the economy back in your favor, that's going to be devastating moving forward, especially given they had about, I think, 2:04 on the clock, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is 2:04, and considering all of those ultimates available for the defensive side, they're going to be able to potentially, at the very least, stall 2 team fights with all of them available. That Graviton by himself should be able to shut down any commencing push from Grizzlies, because Transcendence is not going to be there.
Yeah, I mean, not having that, not having any offensive pressure through some kind of ultimates to start turning the tides as well, that's going to hurt them. So they need to start building those up for sure. They need to get that barrage ready. They need to start building up, I believe, the Zapri's on Tracer now. So they need to get a pulse bomb ready so that they have options once they do manage to get their Graviton Surge as well. However, when you look at the other side, Hit On, as we mentioned, they have everything ready. So clearly the Transcendence is one of those things. So once they start getting them, if actually this is played correctly by Karasuno, if they're not forced to pull anything out that they don't want to initially, then this could be a situation where by the time that they get everything, they might be met by a Transcendence, they might be met by a Res, Valkyrie to come up, to have some chain healing to come as well. I mean, there's just so many things that could go wrong, and off the back of a couple of, not the greatest pushes that we've seen out of Grizzlies, and then also losing the Transcendence as they did have Ding fall out.
And that's going to be the biggest problem, right? When you have all those ultimates you can stagger out just to waste as much time as possible. It's going to come down to those picks, right? It's going to come down to looking at especially Zapri potentially finding a big pulse bomb, or just forcing by himself that Transcendence out of Hidan to really open things up for the rest of his team. Because if I look at the team overall, and as you said, those ultimates, that's the only light at the end of the tunnel that I see right now, at the very least, for Grizzlies.
Yeah, so, I mean, they have a couple of options. How do they want to go about this? Because, again, 2:04 on the clock. They have to expect that everything is ready, because they heard the Infrasight go off. That has an audio cue, so they did hear that. But everything else they have to assume is ready. It's been 2 minutes. They've been stopped every single time they've tried to go in. So it has to be assumed at this stage. And they're talking about it right now. They're having a discussion while there is a technical pause right now with that DC. So you have to assume, going into this next fight, they're going to be thinking about it in one of 2 ways, right? They're going to be thinking, hey, we need to start, trying to use one or 2 things and try to pull out 2 to 4 if we can, so that we have an opportunity moving forward. If we can get some healing over to our Zenyatta and, allow him to put some damage out, get some poke pressure out, and get his Transcendence back up towards the latter end of this timer that we have left. Or they want to hold on to literally everything, try to see if they can get some picks and force out some momentum shifting ults from the side of Karasuno, so that they can go ahead and push it in themselves.
And it's going to be a tough ask of them either way, even with a prolonged team fight, considering the fact that, yes, while they might force out a couple of ultimates, the staying power overall should still favor the side of Karasuno. And if they can keep up that momentum, they didn't even manage to get a single tick on the board here. And just a few picks here and there is not really going to cut it.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about picks, I mean, when you're talking about trying to find a way in, trying to open up the site a little bit, especially knowing that they're down on ultimates, you know, all that really is it's going to, and I think it is a good thing. And I think at this point, when you look at the way that they start approaching this, they're going to need to get those picks actually, because what they want to do is they want to get an advantage and then be somewhat aggressive, but have a way to just kind of, you know, regress, find a way to just pull back and disengage so that they can force ultimates out from the defensive side of Karasuno. And then all of a sudden, if they get away from that, if they disengage effectively and stay alive, then all of a sudden they can start equalizing the playing field. Zenyatta's just been throwing damage orbs out this entire time, you know, making sure that he starts coming back into it. And then all of a sudden, you know, it might be 4 ultimates versus 4 ultimates, and they have a positional advantage. So as we do start the match back up, we'll have to see which route they want to take. Ding is going to be likely to go back over to the Zenyatta. Zafri, we just mentioned, you know, how important it might come down to picks, and Zafri will make that swap over to the Widowmaker, and it looks like we're still waiting for Ding to select his hero, and he might actually DC out yet again, unfortunately. And Grizzlies need to get this figured out very soon, because I'm not sure what their substitution lineup looks like to be able to replace Ding if he's not able to come back in.
At the very least, though, we can talk a little bit about Zafri now moving on to the Widowmaker. Considering his previous performance on Ilios, it's been absolutely stellar, and now with those picks being all too important for them moving forward on Eichenwald, finding someone like Boostio in the back, forcing out the Resurrect, and forcing out a potential disadvantageous positioning for Karasuno might be the biggest thing here. But even so, it's still really going to be a tough call. And if they don't even manage to get Ding just yet, it's going to be unfortunate.
So we already saw how on the defensive side, Boostio on that Widowmaker pick has been able to shut down, I believe, Spirit. So if we can see that same thing happen with Zafri being able to take down Far, force out a res to come from Mercy and perhaps put him into a bad position, you know, it might not be the case depending on where Far plays from. We often see him playing from the back of the site. So unless they have a good angle for that, or perhaps Far, you know, can find him in the air and then rotate to the other side of the house and then go for an aerial shot. And we're talking heroics here. I mean, it's going to be very tough. So we're going to be jumping back into the game, talking about all the different angles they could possibly take. But at the end of the day, Zafri needs to find the shot here. He did it so well on Ilios. Needs to come through for the rest of these Grizzlies if they're going to be able to cap this first point. Spirit to fall very early, though, and I do not believe he's in a position to be rezzed here.
Oh, that is not what you were going to look for if you're Grizzlies, especially considering the fact that you have 1 minute and 14 seconds left on the clock. Too many ults to count here for Karasuno, and now as we will have Guru look to push pretty far forward. Now we'll have Zafri looking for those sides yet again. Tries to go for Far. It doesn't find him, but it will be Boostio getting that kill. Graviton did come out, and it is a 2-for-1. However, Boostio did go out, so if we will see that res go through, maybe it's going to be looking worse, but we'll see Guru still going forward. The rest of his team is making sure the Resurrect is safe, and once more, Karasuno in a really commanding position.
However, this is where things start equalizing. We already mentioned that they need to make sure that they're saving everything that they could, and they did exactly that. Ding will be at 93%, but other than that, they have every option available to them. Now it's about finding a pick and start pushing in, rolling that snowball down as quickly as possible so you can get onto the objective. There it goes down. There's the Graviton, followed up by a barrage, protected by that projected barrier. Transcendence will be the answer to keep them alive for now. And Far in the sky, taking on Spirit. They do find that kill.
And in the meantime, Ding still going through with a kill of himself onto Hidan as well. The double kill here for the Zenyatta, fights the Frogking as well. Ding coming back, striking hard. Will potentially secure the point for his team, but through overtime and a lot of those ults were committed, but on the other side as well, Karasuno only having that rocket barrage moving forward.
And here's the swap from Spirit. This is not the first time we've actually seen the Genji come out in general, but even from him as well, because we've seen a couple times Zapri, oftentimes, you know, really enjoying the Tracer. We've seen them pair up with the Genji as well. So he's going to get rezzed up. Zapri will find that opening pick on the Boostio, which might get rezzed here as well, but still denying that cooldown will be huge. And Mercy now getting into position and going for it. They're going to deny that for now and as well find the kill onto the Frog King.
And now with this dive composition, running themselves up here for Grizzly, we'll look for more. Zapri still on fire on that Widowmaker. Will find another target, and the payload getting a lot of distance because of it.
Coming around the corner, Boostio now will have the advantage with the infra site. Zapri pretty close, so he'll be able to follow that one, potentially be able to shut them down, but they know where they are for now, obviously. Karasuno going to try to pile out of this hallway pretty soon. You see this shoulder peeking coming out from Zapri, trying to stay protected for now against the infra site, but that goes down, and now it's Zapri's turn.
Ooh, as both of the supports, first ones to fall here for Karasuno, and even though Far finds one on to pay, still going to be all about Grizzlies, as we'll have both the Transcendence and the Blade ready to be paired up there. However, not really needed, as nobody from Karasuno is left alive to contest that payload. Second point now being obtained by Grizzlies, and even though, yes, Guru does have that Graviton, DPS should have another ultimate as well, we still find these picks time and time again here for Grizzlies.
Spirit actually was able to do that, and I believe a 4v4, and now we see a swap. Boostio and Far, interestingly, going over to Hanzo and Junkrat to really put some pressure out here. Spirit with the Blade going for it, will find 2 kills to start that off. Make it 3, make it 4, make it 5. Now gonna try to find the 6. Graceful finishes the job. They will lose their tank. They'll get the res though, but Spirit on the Genji.
Oh man, Graceful stealing that 6th kill. However, they're gonna take it as that payload is almost on that third point. We'll see Zapri with another entry pick in this team fight, getting boosted. DPS coming back from spawn though, gets a good charge. Graviton is there, and finally we might see Karasuno stabilizing, especially with the Earth Shatter, fighting both of those tanks. And now Zapri still finding the sidelines. We'll claim a few, but it will be Karasuno eventually stabilizing.
Give this man another Blade. Give it to him. We do see just the infra site available for the attacking side. 112 on the clock now. Both teams going to be battling for momentum in this next fight, trying to get an advantage in any way that they can. Valkyrie ready for the Frog King, as you can see, to be able to get a little bit of height up there, come up and get some good healing out as well, as Evokia will probably go for that in the next fight as well.
But look at that, the other Shimada brother coming out for Spirit. Now even Zapri moving on to more of that spammy damage in the meantime, though. It's going to be Far with the tire. However, it gets taken out. Spirit just as effective on this Hanzo so far, as he finds Boostio as well.
Such a powerful hero, that Hanzo, finding Boostio. So much damage as they match those DPS picks. Boostio swapping over to the Tracer eventually, but now we see Zapri going forward. Look at all this charge that they're able to accumulate throughout this. He's going to have the Riptire soon, 88%, but he might not even need it, as Boostio has been on the Tracer for some time. Will go down yet again with that team kill, signaling Grizzlies' ability to finish the map despite a couple of hiccups in the beginning, especially with a couple of DCs from Ding, unfortunately.
Unfortunately indeed, but now that we still see them complete the map, when it comes to their attacking side, we'll be swapping over to defense. And while, yes, those first few pushes weren't looking too hot, eventually they did get all the different team fight wins, because when it came down to it towards that second phase, they won all of their respective team fights. Nothing was gained in favor of Karasuno. They couldn't really contest that payload at all. And with so much momentum going into their favor, they made the best out of what they had, really.
So we see another mirror actually to come. It seems as we are going to be seeing both the Widow and the Pharah tank lineup from Pei and Graceful, going to be Reinhardt and Zarya, and that's going to be mirrored as well. Same with the Mercy and Zenyatta. However, I mean, I feel like it's probable that this will actually be the case, but I'm still so excited about these matchups. These mirror matchups are so important, you know, making sure that your team is getting the upper hand. You want to be able to beat the other Zarya in charge. You know, talking about momentum as we were earlier, making sure that you can throw that down quick, have your team ready to execute before the other team gets set up and into position to do the same to you. That can be huge and could easily lead to them taking a first cap should it get to that point.
And at the very least, with those double DPS setups, having both the Widowmaker and the Pharah, we'll look to see Spirit, of course, set up just around that middle tower for the most part, just being able to stay safe and peek at the right times, potentially forcing Far to not have too much of a good time on that Pharah himself, as so far we'll see the mine get spotted out by Boostio, looking from above. Doesn't quite find the target, however.
Oh, Zapri almost got taken out. Boostio just whiffing right by him with that shot, and they're engaging quickly. DPS and Guru both going to take a little bit of damage. Ooh, a headshot from Boostio as he's trying to follow up. Won't find the kill just yet into Zapri as he goes forward. And he will, I mean, look at these guys, so close to each other, still so just unable to make sure that this goes their way. And Far will say, enough of this, I'm done. And Spirit getting another opportunity himself to say just the same. Will take 3. Grizzlys Esports make the hold.
And in what a fashion, Spirit most definitely on fire on that Pharah as he returns fire in such a spectacular way, claims a triple kill and claims that team fight win. And a lot of charge was denied there for Guru. As you said, it is gonna be very important to look at these Zaryas and how they match up, and so far Graceful has been coming out on top and they can continue this momentum. We'll be looking good, but Zapri not fighting as much effectiveness this time.
Oh, a lot of energy for Graceful now as they're pushing out damage. Hey, up there, and Spirit will take Boostio out. They are at an advantage with the numbers right now as Guru trying to keep pace, and still, look at this, 55%. Graceful's had his for a little while now.
And that will be the prime target for Karasuno to keep their eyes peeled for, to make sure they don't get too much work done, but it's gonna be coming out. Transcendence instantly out of Hidan, and the charge now might secure a kill as Far, finds 2, and finally, things might be opening up for Karasuno.
You need to make sure that you have the follow-through when you throw that Graviton Surge down, and they just didn't. We saw Hidan come out as well on the Zen, making a big play, denying that, and now they could take this despite being well behind to start things off in that Graviton race. They should take this point quickly as Far as claiming kill after kill. Karasuno, it's only a matter of time.
After Zapri made the swap to the Tracer to make sure he gets back in to the fight, he wasn't able to really contest Far, especially after Spirit lost his life. But now we'll see back, or rather Grizzlies go back to that double sniper composition with Graceful and Pei more towards those divey, tanky heroes.
Oh, and for sight coming out from Boostio here. So they'll have vision to approach this next fight with. So they see Pei on this high ground. Spirit still taking that kill though. So they're going to go to engage. They're going to look very aggressive, but they still have the ability to fall back.
So we'll see. Guru now having that Graviton with that prolonged team fight might be looking good for his team, but now as Zapri and Spirit still find those 2 kills, Far is going to come from up above. However, Spirit gets him with an arrow to the head.
Guru holding onto this Graviton for a while now. They're waiting for that opportunity to pull it out, and they just haven't felt comfortable with anything that's been thrown their way. Grizzlies have been holding on now, 3:15 in their time bank. Dragon Strike to come up pretty soon, and when they do actually want to, ooh, there's a way to get in there.
With Zapri going down, he's gonna signal the rest of his team to push forward. Far with that Graviton setup is gonna find 2 kills, and even though Spirit has returned the favor with the Storm Arrows, it's going to be Karasuno continuing on with the charge, and now Far being brought back up. And we'll have that Earth Shatter and Valkyrie soon enough to work with, but on the other end, with the Dragon Strike, it might just push them away from that payload.
It really seems like Far has been kind of a standout. You know, casting him in open division, casting him here, he's really done well, I would say, so far for these guys. Finding yet another one as I'm talking about him. Oftentimes you'll see the caster curse come into play. Not this time. Far will kill off Zapri, and here's Spirit jumping in with the Dragon Strike. Will claim Boostio, and they'll find their way onto the point as well. They need to take out Spirit as this man is popping up. Finds a 3rd kill for himself. Now looking for the Pharah in the sky. Can he find it?
The bloodthirsty Hanzo now will find another into the sky with the help of the rest of his team, of course, but very well timed by Grizzlies to make sure they send in Graceful right before that second point. And at this moment, we will have Karasuno all the way back towards their spawn. They have so much distance to cover to make sure they get it back in time. And with 1 minute and 50 seconds, Grizzlies definitely making the best out of that situation.
And you have two options here. Do you go for the quick route and then all of a sudden it's easy to spot you, or do you take your time and go around? This time it looks like they're going to take their time and go around, but again, that's just more time at the clock. Transcendence coming out, but still Graceful finding that opening kill.
And it's a 1v or 1-for-1 trade here as EPS does manage to find the return kill with the charge. However, far now onto the Widowmaker. He's gonna find just as much success as he does manage to take out Pei, and we'll have Bustio back in action as we'll see the rest of Karasuno continuing on to charge, finding kill after kill. Transcendence even expanded. Graceful though, launching that self-destruct into the air, finds that kill out too far. But look at this, no one on the payload. Means that with this strong team fight, so much time is being wasted for Karasuno.
Oh, Spirit with the Dragon Strike, getting off a little bit of damage, but no kill there, and it's going to be answered by Bustio, throwing out one of his own. He'll find Ding, and they should be able to turn this fight back around as Guru takes out Spirit as well. Grizzlies hanging on, and it looks like they will finally die off as Savvy tries to go back onto the point, and finally capped out now by Karasuno.
Oh, Graceful still delaying. 32 seconds for this objective will finally be acquired though by Karasuno. And now with 1 minute and 55 seconds, they do have quite a few ultimates to make sure they do get the third point as well. But on the other side, some adaptations. We will see Graceful back onto the Zarya. Pei also on that Reinhardt will enable potentially the likes of Spirit to dish out that damage and be that hero once more.
136 that they have to hold out. Oh, DPS sneaks his way around. He does get stunned, but it's a big opening for the rest of his team as the shield drops from the charge. They clean up easily, and they are pushing this payload along far, going up to the high ground to try to take an angle, try to take a pick, give them yet another opportunity to just continue this push.
Look at that, 3-0-3, the Brawl comp coming out of Grizzlies, looking to push them away. It's gonna be DPS dropping pretty low, but in the meantime, Bustio does manage to find a counter more, and the Dragon Strike is out, and it looks like it is going to be stated as far. Will help out in the backline, still uncontested, only Spirit left onto the point, self-destruct. Now even used by Guru, however, we'll see Karasuno complete Eichenwald.
Talking about momentum, man, to be able to just push that all the way through, fight after fight after fight. Grizzlies hung on for quite a long time right before that second objective, but inevitably Karasuno ended right where they needed to. Now 3-3, 140 is the time for Karasuno as they got that extra little bit, with Grizzlies awarding that to them as their time was just a little bit slower. And obviously, part of that would be because of those unfortunate DCs. However, Grizzlies on the attack this time around first. We're going to be seeing them with that kind of, I mean, it's a small amount of time to work with. They're going to come through with a 3-0-3. And we already saw how Karasuno was able to deal with this on the last map. You have to wonder if it's going to be the same case, or are they going to be jumping at Grizzlies more aggressively and allow for Grizzlies to take the fight how they want?
Because, well, yes, far on the Pharah could potentially be enough to deal with that type of comp coming out of Grizzlies. If you take those ground wars as soon as possible, which this composition can definitely do, Grizzlies should still be looking good, but as you said, didn't quite perform to expectations with it. On Ilios, we'll look to see have a little bit more success this time around. As far already spamming out that damage, will be at 36%.
Yeah, and he's chipping into them, especially these healers, forcing the fade out, but still, it's already going to be Grizzlies getting aggressive. This time, playing the composition how we are used to seeing it and finding the kills right off the bat as Graceful works his way around the side, putting pressure onto the Zenyatta now, taking him out, hit on to fall. Bustio right after, and they will quickly take this first point.
Now that they do get that payload rolling, we'll look to see whether or not Karasuno sticks to that composition. It seems like it's not quite going to be the same approach. Bustio will make the support to the Hanzo, so a lot of a lot more spammy damage could come through, not as much burst now potentially. But Far, having their rocket barrage, considering the fact that they will see Grizzlies push this payload through overtime, if he gets a couple of picks, it will be more than enough. But Zapri still on that Widowmaker will look to make sure he shuts him down before that happens.
Far going to be denying that line of sight as much as he can. And look at this, barrage to come out. Going to be protected a little bit, but still finding 2 kills. Spirit and Pei both fall, overtime ticking. They're trying to turn this fight around with the Coalescence as Ding pulls that out himself. Zapri under fire now. Will not be able to find a good angle, it seems, as Boostio is claiming another kill onto Ding. Make it 2 onto the mech from Graceful.
Oh.
And finally, Karasuno making a stand. However, respawn advantage definitely in favor of Grizzlies as their tanks come back into this play. They have to find a way to get some kills, though, gain some ground in this fight.
So far, not much of it was gained as Boostio still on point with those arrows. Spirit finally gets 1 kill, but that's all they get. Graceful doesn't even get back onto the objective, and now we'll see, at the very least, for Grizzlies, a little bit of distance covered, but not exactly what you were looking for.
Still, Far made such a clutch play there, taking out both of those tanks. I mean, on this composition, if you're able to take out a Reinhardt and a Zarya with a barrage and you die, I'll take that trade all day.
Oh, yeah.
All day long, I will take that trade. And he took it definitely for the benefit of his team. And now they have a decent amount of time to work with. However, I'm not sure exactly what they're going to want to go for. I would expect a 2-2-2, but that could be stalled out quite easily in the span of 1 minute 40. And if things go down much further, are we going to be seeing Karasuno, I believe, on a 3-0-3 for the first time? Or are they going to stick to their guns, literally go for the double sniper, and just try to find a way in what is, not a lot of time to work with?
Well, so far, it should be looking pretty good because Spirit has been found by the likes of Boostio or Far time and time again, and now having that double sniper setup, as you said, will find plenty of damage into their opponents, but it's gonna be interesting. 1 minute 40 seconds, not too much time, and it seems like we might just have it. Even Far, making the adjustments. It is going to be Karasuno's take on that 3-0-3.
Yeah, so they're gonna go onto this, do the same, try to at least attempt to do the same thing that Grizzlies tried to do, and now we'll see if Grizzlies can find the answer as they're forced to pull back. Already Spirit taking some pressure, but they will find the kill. Actually make it 2 supports already down. That's a lot of healing gone from this composition. They still have to ward off the rest of these guys. They take out the final support. Now it's over. Now we'll see Grizzlies holding on this first fight.
And the Resurrect is still available, and as a result, Evoke even brings back Pei. All members online here for Grizzlies, and with a late kill onto Far, this is going to delay things even further. They will have quite a bit in terms of those ultimate charges. I mean, my eyes are on Spirit right now to just make sure he secures that rocket barrage, but Zap is going to be dropping pretty low as Boostio does get quite a bit of damage in himself.
So not sticking to this for very long at all, going back to the 2-2-2, but leaving Hidan on the Moira instead of bringing him over to the Zenyatta. He wasn't very high on ult charge at all towards that Coalescence, but still sticking to this now. As they're going to be without the damage orb as well. And so now going into this next bit of the fighting, they're not able to really kind of sustain these. They're not able to get the damage that they want to be able to find that opening pick that they need. Pei is down, so if there is any time, this is pretty much it with 14 seconds left.
Especially since that Reinhardt is not in play. Even Evoke gets taken out. Big target. Earthshatter could secure this one if DPS finds that kill, but doesn't even need it. Spirit will go down. Finally uses it. It goes a bit wide as Pei was even shielded up by that projector barrier. However, Zapri will go down. Earthshatter returns. DPS might go down. However, the rest of his team will keep it safe. Pei doesn't quite find the charge. However, Ding will still look to contest. 2 ticks though already here for Karasuno in overtime, and still having that.
That was so important because look what they've got. They've got Graceful all ready to go with that Graviton Surge. The res is so important right now because they need the follow-up damage in this archway as it comes through so that they can win this fight in overtime here.
They need to make it happen because look at that distance. 36.57 meters is what the opposition got, but Zapri finds far in return. Both of these pairs not having too much fun. Eyes on graceful to grab
got eaten up!
Not like this. Guru on point with that Matrix, but Zapri does find another kill far. Denied so far in terms of that success with the Rocket Barrage, and we might still see Grizzlies come out on top.
Oh, DPS trying to hold on the Coalescence to come out, trying to sustain him, but his barrier goes down. That opens things up for them. Overtime ticking 4 meters away. They need to get this final push, but the kills are coming, and they're coming in waves too. That's so bad for them, and now we will see Grizzlies take it. Spirit, yet another heroic fair play for one of these guys. This time, it's not far. It's Spirit to close the map out, and now they're 2-0 in the series.
And even though they are up 2-0 and it is going to be match point for Grizzlies, still some really good stuff coming out of Karasuno. I do want to see them keep up that momentum, potentially just play around Far's ability to really take the game into his hands. Spirit just being an absolute monster on the Genji too. We haven't seen too much of that Genji in the tournament, but hey, Spirit kind of making up for it in a sense.
I mean, the fluid movement that we saw out of Spirit to be able to control where he was going and staying safe, making sure that he wasn't getting thrown around. So he was he was always in control of his movement for that and always going for great targets to be able to, pull that kind of thing off. You don't see it all the time, but when it happens, it's mind-blowing to me because, it takes so much to be able to get stuff like that.
Textbook performance, but we will be moving on to a break before we move to what could very well be the last map in this series. It is claws out for Grizzlies. Now they are at match point. One map win away through advancing through the losers bracket. And on the other side, of course, Karasuno need to step things up, and they need to do it now.
Yeah, they absolutely have to. And going over to an Anubis map, I mean, it's now or never. I mean, we're in the losers bracket. You have to make sure that you get these maps under your belt so that you can stay in the tournament. I mean, we mentioned that a lot. This is where teams really, come alive. This is where teams start pulling out all the stops. You need to, if you have something up your sleeve, if you have something in your back pocket, pull it out now because there is no other opportunity if you don't take this map. And moving forward, I'm definitely expecting, more Widow play. I'm definitely expecting, certainly some Orisa to come out as well. Maybe even some high ground play with the Orisa. I'm not sure exactly if they're going to be playing from, that plateau or up on the high ground where they get boosted up by the Mei, but still going to be expecting to see some Widow. Having that Widow versus Widow matchup is going to be, I think, very pivotal, especially on that first point. But going from there, maybe some 3-0-3, maybe some, variations of that Slambulance.
But not only that, when it comes to Anubis, from what we've seen so far, it was actually a pretty decent amount of emphasis on that dive composition. This is the pretty much most likely the map we've seen most Genji play out of.
Right, and that's when we're going to probably see Spirit on that. So if he does bring it out, I would definitely assume that it's going to be, at some point on this map. First point is very good at, jumping into that high ground, especially if you bring out a full dive. I'm not exactly sure what Zappri's going to want to play. Maybe even the Tracer at this point to be able to go with that, pull them down onto the point. We've actually seen that before, if I'm not mistaken. And as we dive into the map here, that is actually going to be the case. We are going to be seeing the Genji as well as Zappri on the Tracer. And I imagine, once again, Zappri will be going to the point here, trying to pull them back and away so that he can pull some of these members and kind of help his team isolate that front line.
Ooh, but Spirit looking for that flank approach will be spotted out by both Hidan as well as Boostio, making his life miserable, at the release for now. But as you said, Zappri dropping down onto the point will split their attention, and Spirit still now finally uncontested will look for Hidan and secures that first blood.
Oh, it's back and forth, though, as Boostio has been unanswered. Too much space to work with right now. Still, they are losing member after member. Boostio hanging on, but Zappri claiming Guru finally here. That will open things up as Boostio just no way that he's going to be able to contest this at all. And he's very low as Winston jumps up. Graceful finds the kill with the Bunny Blaster of all things, and he'll have his mech pretty soon. I imagine he'll just probably stick to this. And he actually, yeah, I would imagine he would want to stick to this. He's at 99%, and there he goes. He's going to actually swap. They're going for a 3-0-3 here, I think, but Spirit, okay, so they are actually going to make that full swap to the 3-0-3, holding on to this now and looking to re-engage, but keeping Ding as he's at 76% towards the Transcendence on the Zenyatta. Oh, there's the swap, actually. So taking a while to decide whether or not they want to commit to it. Again, we mentioned that about Grizzlies already. They don't often commit to this fully. Sometimes they'll make little changes, but this time they said, you know what, let's go for it. Let's close this match out.
But Bar coming out with the Riptide is gonna instantly shut this down as we'll see 2 kills on the board. Graceful finds one, but that is going to be it for Grizzlies as the rest of Karasuno will continue to push on forward. And the big problem for Grizzlies is that they wasted so much time until they decided just dilly-dallying around, not really being too committed to this composition, as you said. And now we'll see even Boostio with that Tracer swap that he made eventually. Already have that Pulse Bomb at the ready. Hidan with that Transcendence will also stall this one out.
You have to be more decisive, get these adjustments in quickly so you're not just hurting yourself over time. Graceful going to be swapping back into his mech for the second time, so now again he's resetting that ult charge. Pulse Bomb at the ready, you can see Boostio looking for it. Oh, going to be shut down by Zappri though, who was hanging back.
Will be a 1-for-1 trade, however, and now that we'll see Don getting a double kill for himself. No ultimate even needed there in the form of that Transcendence as the rest of the team still holds out strong onto that point. Graceful will be desuited as well, just looking for a late kill potentially, as we will see almost all of the members of Karasuno have those ultimates at the ready, and now with Guru getting his Graviton too, they're gonna just look to push forward. Boostio launches that Pulse Bomb, doesn't quite connect, but doesn't even really need it, or rather D2.
And they might have answers as Grizzlies may want to try to get, I mean, if they get impatient here and they start throwing ultimates out to engage this fight, despite, oh, and it looks like they might actually do that, the rally to start this fight off, but Spirit's still at 70%. they're going to want to use this, mid-fight. They're going to pull out Coalescence probably early just to try to sustain. But look at all the options Karasuno has, as we talked about already. It's going to come down. It's going to catch them as well. Riptire to come out. Drops over the top. Not going to find the damage that they were looking for, though.
As the Sound Barrier did come through, coming out of Vulcan now with Graceful finding that all-important kill onto the Reinhardt. Ace Space will not have the shatter, but he will be raised back up.
In the middle of the fight. In the middle of the fight, they actually managed to get that well protected. The Frog King manages to get away, and once again, Boostio will be eliminated by Zapri, as Guru has massive energy here in this fight. They still have taken too many members of the Grizzlies. They will fall out, taking some members of Karasuno with them in the process, but now they'll have to go in for yet another try as we see them jittering some of those ultimates back again. And I think namely it's going to be Spirit's Graviton Surge here, and we talk about momentum, these teams wanting to establish it early, wanting to make sure that they be aggressive with that Graviton so they can set their team up well. Spirit versus Guru, let's see how this matchup unfolds.
And the big problem potentially for Grizzlies here is the fact that they have two different ultimates that can really pair up with that Graviton, as it's already out. It's going to be the Tire to shut this push down. 3 members falling for Grizzlies. They need to look to disengage as soon as possible so that they get to keep a little bit of that armor too, coming off of that rally. And at the very least for them, they did force out that Transcendent, or rather the Graviton. We'll have the Transcendence available still for Hedon going into that fight with the Graviton coming out of Spirit, but potentially getting an opening.
Yeah, Graviton, they're going to be probably answering that with the Transcendence, as Hedon does have that come online. He's looking for that too. Drops it right into the point. They're going to drop the self-destruct onto it. They need to get that finished off. Not going to find the kills as Ace of Spades turns. Did actually deny some of that damage as well with the Earth Shatter, and this time it's going to be Pei unleashing one of his own.
And gets a lot of kills for his troubles as Zapri finds to himself off of that Brigitte. And now Guru off to the side will try to look to contest. However, one tick already on the board for Grizzlies, rapidly getting towards that third. Boostio tries to come in. He will get taken out. Ace of Spades now able to charge right in, as it is 99.5%, but a kill still favoring Grizzlies. They do get it in the end with 2 minutes and 17 seconds to spare.
Still really struggling to work the way into that point. Karasuno denied them entry so many times, whittled that down to 217. And this is winnable now for Karasuno, and it has to be for them because this is match point here. And if they lose this, this will be their second loss. It'll be out of the tournament completely. So looking to attack, you have to wonder, are they going to go for the 3-0-3? This is the same question as always. Every single time we have to wonder when all chips are on the table like this, is it going to be a dive? Are you going to really put a lot of that, hope and your prayers into your DPS to find those picks and allow an opening for you to, execute off of that, especially off of what could be a high ground defense here. However, with Grizzlies not having the Mei right now, along with the Lucio, it looks like they're going to be instead just kind of playing the same way we saw Karasuno off of that, close plateau. And it seems as though we'll have Far back on the Widow, and matching up against Zapri, where he's going to be up top, he won't have Pei up there, so he won't have to deal with the barrier. That could be good for them. That could be an opportunity for Far to find that pick and allow them to push in 6v5, unless Evokia is there boosting him up and has the rest. So, I mean, they have to figure these kind of things out. You have to put Boostio onto the point, bring them back. Same thing as what we saw from Zapri, and why they were able to execute onto that point and be able to just kind of rip them to pieces on that first fight.
But there will be some slight changes in terms of the defensive composition when compared to Karasuno, or rather what Karasuno brought to the table. Spirit will be out the Hanzo instead of that Junkrat, so we'll look to see how he can really play this to their advantage. Having that Sonic Air available could potentially scout things out and enable Zapper to find those picks, or of course with that Dragon Strike, if they force the opposition to really go inside of that choke, will be looking good for them, as Ace of Spade does manage to drop the barrier, but drops quite low in terms of that HP.
Oh, Boostio gonna get spotted here by Zapri, and Far being on this Genji, they're gonna go for it as they look to converge onto this high ground. Boostio will fall, so now they don't have the opportunity to do that at all, and falling back, Graceful along with Pei are actually doing such a good job of just disengaging and kind of kiting them out a little bit.
That is exactly what you're looking for. Pay Magic to stay alive was definitely a big thing there for the rest of his team. However, Evoke did have that Resurrect in case he needed it. We'll still have it moving on forward for now, as we will see Zapri already at 92% towards that infra side, and of course that will at the very least secure them a valuable intel moving on forward, as Hidan is going to be dropping low again, being spotted out.
You see the setup with Boostio and Far as Hidan goes down. That will close off this fight, but still you will likely see Boostio trying to get in position, and as he does, again, Zapri will take him out. So Grizzlies shutting them down with this double sniper, who have gone, like I said, kind of untouched so far. However, in the back lines, with this infra site, they do manage to see Far back there, and he's going to get spotted out and chase around the map until finally we see Zapri kill him off with that Venom Mine.
Was that too much of a wild goose chase? It seems like they will still find another onto Boostio, and it's off of the back. Graceful's good hook coming out there, but Ding does go out. However, the Resurrect will be there. Another kill will come through, but once more, Grizzlies are looking poised to potentially make a full hold happen. No ticks on the board for Karasuno.
Guru's going to lose his mech pretty late here as well, so even more time being pretty much stolen away, as the Venom Mine from Zapri will warn them of Far pretty soon, but he doesn't actually pull it out just yet. Oh, there's a hook once again. Boostio has been shut down on this Tracer. I have to wonder if maybe it's time to make a swap, because he has been unable to do pretty much anything throughout this attacking phase. They have found him time and time again.
The same can be said for Far. He has been found by Zapri in the last fight, and now does have the blade, but Ding will be there with an answer in form of that Transcendence. So still gonna be looking pretty dire potentially here for Karasuno, as they will look to re-engage as well, force potentially the opposition off of that high ground, because so far Grizzly in definite control.
Hidan will be coming through the main gate as well. Boostio now onto the point, has his pulse bomb. They go for the hook, won't find it this time. This time an engagement actually coming through from Karasuno. Hidan did get found in the back, as Boostio going forward does found Pei as well.
Graceful does secure the kill in the end. Ante Spade Zapri finds Boostio again and gets Far as well, shutting down both of those DPS members. Once more, no ticks on the board for Karasuno, and now with 40 seconds left, they will be in dire need of some heroic plays.
Spirit has that Dragon Strike available, likely to try to use that to ward off the dive that's going to come through from Karasuno, as Far does make the swap onto the Widowmaker. Going to be looking to try to take that high ground, take an angle if he's not shut down initially. There's the Dragon Strike to come out, pushing away the Mercy. Hidan goes down. Oh, a late kill on the Boostio, and he's still finding another as the Frog King tried to come in, I believe trying to go for the res. And now 7 seconds left. The Spirit takes yet another kill. There's only one person on the point now. It's the Diva. He's going to go for the reset. Guru back into his mech as he does kill off Ding, but still he's alone here. Overtime ticks down as he can't get onto the point in time, and Grizzlies with the full hold take it and eliminate Karasuno.
And as a result, they will be moving on through the losers bracket to face off against the winner of the next matchup coming up soon. But really well played by Grizzlies to still get the win in the end. Some indecisiveness overall in this series, which can definitely be to their detriment looking up forward. But in terms of the individual play, at the very least, still looking really strong.
Yeah, I mean,